They say it's better to be fashionably late than not show up at all, and we'll explain the backstory on that as we go. But welcome to episode 107 of the Wise Guys Sports Show. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Crinity, and we've got a very, very loaded show tonight. So let's get into it right away. Michael, how was your Sunday?
It was good. It was relaxing. We had, for all those who have watched the show for many years, Bobby turned 4 on Friday. Um, and we had his birthday party yesterday. And we had his birthday party yesterday at a gymnastics center. And a little sore today, putting kids on the rings to go diving into the ball pit, into the foam pits. But you know what? It was a great day. It was relaxing. Got a
It's
little
always a
Madden
good day
played.
with the foam pit when all the kids actually come out alive.
Yeah, I was telling him a story when Caitlin was little, who will be 24 next month. Um, I jumped in to show her that it wasn't going to hurt her, and it took me 40 minutes to get out, and this was almost 20 years ago. So you can imagine how long it would have taken me yesterday, or I'd still be in there now.
And we would have actually not had another show because we're going to be off next Sunday
No,
too.
I probably would have had Steph drop me off the computer just so you guys could see where the fuck I was.
Wise Guys on remote.
Like an episode of Wipeout, only not in the water. Which, by the way,
that will be the recurring theme tonight, I think.
It's going to, because my 4-year-old, when he eats dinner, has to watch certain shows. It's either the Junior British Bake Off, which is entertaining. Is It Cake, hosted by Mikey Day, where they make the cakes that look like a lifelike item. And just this week, it has turned into Wipeout, of course, with John Anderson and John Henson. You'll understand why I mentioned those two at the end.
We talked about this very briefly when we spoke yesterday afternoon. I'm glad it's the John Anderson and John Henson as opposed to John Cena.
Me too, because Cena's a punk. But Jim, as you mentioned, we got a loaded show. We went up 35 minutes later than normal, and both of us will turn into pumpkins very soon. So what do you say we hit it, since we got a bunch in the hat trick?
It's the 3 biggest topics in the world of sports from the last week. Get ready for the Wise Guys hat trick.
I also think we may have fixed this. There's one way to find out.
We have Goalhorn. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is a time-honored tradition like no other. Oh, wait, that's the second segment. But it's these two chuckleheads breaking down the NFL draft. So last year we found a way to do it where we weren't actually taking most of our time at work when we were supposed to be being productive to get this right. And we're going to take mock drafts. Each of us picked one, and we're going to break down certain picks. We're not going to go through all 32, and really for Jim and I, 33, with the Browns having the first pick in the second round. We're not going to go through all 33. We're going to highlight a few that we think should be debated, shouldn't be debated, or really need to be dived into. So, Jim, Whose mock draft did you pick this year?
I actually went the opposite direction. I made my own mock draft base. I took a lot of the
Okay.
ones that were on CBS and ESPN, and I put together an entire first round mock myself. So why don't we start with you?
You fucking overachiever! I swear to Christ.
I was the Paul DePodesta in Moneyball. I needed to do 4 player profiles and I did 56.
You need to listen to one of the songs from Hamilton. You just did that shit. I'm proud of you. I feel lazy, but I'm proud of you.
It only took me about a half hour.
Oh, okay. This is Jim just throwing names on a piece of paper.
Pretty much, it's taking who a lot of the consensus were, who I think would be decent fits.
Gotcha. I think everybody's pretty consensus. Cam Ward's going number 1 overall to Tennessee.
Just about everyone that I read has Cam Ward going number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Yes, you are correct.
So no more bananas with the peels on, and no more mayonnaise in their coffee. Thank fuck. 2 is where it starts to get interesting. Now, I said something to you earlier in the week because the Cleveland Browns did something smart this week, and that is they brought back Joe Flacco on a 1-year contract. Very team friendly, but very Joe friendly, if you ask me. Of course, Ken Carman, our favorite Jabba the Hutt wannabe personality from Cleveland, says that if you really want to get this city lit up, that you re-sign Nick Chubb, and Nicholas Jamal Chubb. I fully agree with that. Thank you. But now this is where it gets interesting. Kuiper has Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner, defensive back, wide receiver out of Colorado, going at number 2 to the Cleveland Browns. James, who did you have it to?
Abdul Carter, without a doubt. You run to the podium on this. Travis Hunter does not fit this team. He is the best athlete in the draft. The best fit for the Cleveland Browns as it stands right now is without question Abdul Carter. And ironically enough, on another one of 92.3 FM's shows, as Ken Carman is on the morning show, the afternoon drive made the most sense. They said if you draft Travis Hunter, you need a quarterback to be able to get him the ball. And if you actually put him at cornerback, if Denzel Ward is healthy, that's great because Ward can actually try to contain one receiver and Hunter can do the other. If Ward goes down, then you actually have to put Hunter on that number 1 receiver, but that's the problem. That shuts down 1, if not 2 receivers. Abdul Carter, matching him on the other side of the line with Myles Garrett, shuts them all down.
Agreed. I think Abdul Carter is the pick here. I agree with you. I think Travis Hunter is a better fit as a wide receiver somewhere and a defensive back with packages as opposed to the other way around, which a lot of teams have said they're going to do. Listen, the kid is a talent like we haven't seen in years.
That's why whenever you see every mock draft, they don't have edge. They don't have IOL, which is new that's coming up, interior offensive lineman. They don't have running back. They don't have, for him, it's not defensive back or wide receiver, or it's not a split.
ATH.
They have him listed as athlete.
Yeah, no, I agree, and they're certainly doing that in the college recruiting rankings too, with those guys. But Jim, why do I think they're going to take Shedeur Sanders?
If that's the case, then I told you this, privately this week. I won't make a lot of this. If that's the case, you will see me talk very, very little on this show during the fall because I will not be talking about college football. I will not be talking about the Cleveland Browns. I will not be talking about the baseball playoffs. You will wait for me for hockey and basketball season to start.
Well, and I understand that. Why? And I will make this correlation. Then I want to move on to the Giants at 3. Why does this feel like the Vontae Mack no matter what moment for Andrew Berry?
Because he feels he needs to hit the home run with the quarterback, but the problem is there's so many better talents out there. Mike, if you had to make the pick, if you were Andrew Berry, who is your pick at 2?
Abdul Carter.
Okay.
It's when you commit that kind of money to Myles Garrett, one thing the Browns have struggled to do since Miles has come into the league in 2017 is put somebody else on the other end of that line that's actually impactful. Now, they've been okay on the interior, where they've had a couple of hits. Ogunjobi is one of them. Snacks
Obo-
Harrison's another one.
Obo Okoronkwo was very good
Yes.
for the playoff run. Dalvin Tomlinson was very good. Obo
Yes.
took a massive step back. Dalvin's gone. Tommy Togiai did not work out at all. It's
No.
I think of this. Garrett and Carter on the opposite side of the line would be just as good, if not better, than what happened in Los Angeles with the Rams, where they go out and they get Aaron Donald's replacement. What if Aaron Donald has a change of heart and comes out of retirement? You think that kid's going to step aside? Hell no. You're going to get the greatest pass rusher of the last 30 years and the most up and coming one, and the defensive rookie of the year on top of that, on opposite sides of the line.
You bring in Abdul Carter, it could be what they thought the Texans were going to have with J.J. Watt and what's his name, the idiot who decided to follow Deshaun, Jadeveon Clowney.
Correct.
You could have what they had, what they thought they had, but Clowney turned out to be pretty much a fucking bust anyway. So we moved to number 3 with the Giants. Now, in Mel Kiper's mock draft, they have hit them taking Abdul Carter after the signing of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Sidebar. Jameis did that anxiety dance thing, the viral videos where you see the person dance behind somebody, like in Fresh Prince, with a fucking crab. So a fucking crab, Jim, to make up for stealing the crab legs when he was in college. I'm going to miss Jameis in a Browns uniform this year. But Jim, who do you have at 3 there going to the Giants?
I have Travis Hunter going here. I think Travis Hunter, there's no way that he slips past 3, no matter where he goes. If he goes 1 to Tennessee, if Tennessee throws the curveball and goes, Travis Hunter at 1, great. If the Browns go Travis Hunter, I'm not going to be happy with it, but it's still a good move because he's the best pure athlete in the draft. There's no way, shape, or form the absolute worst case scenario for Travis Hunter would be at 4 to New England.
Let me tell you why that Travis Hunter is going to go 3 to the Giants. There's a last name at Texas right now that I think the Giants are going to tank for next year.
Sewers for yours?
No.
Yeah.
Arch.
The Manning dynasty will be a thing.
Exactly. Now watch Eli be a dick and not let him wear 10. On Kiper's draft at 4, he has offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU going to the Patriots. Listen, you got to protect Drake May. I think that's a smart move, taking a top 5 offensive tackle there for the Patriots. Who you got?
I went Will Campbell as well. I think you've got your quarterback. You can definitely build around him. They were competitive, even with the crap that they had from the bottom basement, from what they were left with. The quarterbacks that flamed out beforehand. Your Bailey Zappies, your Mac Jones. They've got their guy now, and now you keep him upright because if you think about it, sure, it's the Haley Steinfeld's division, correct? It's the Buffalo Bills and their 3 sons. The Jets are going nowhere. The Dolphins are going backwards. New England's on the come up. It's not their division to take over as long as Josh Allen's still under center in Buffalo. And the fact that they're retooling and look to be possibly even stronger than they were last year, minus their secondary, which they can address. But New England, I'm not saying they're going to be in the playoff hunt this year, but they're going to be a lot closer than people think that they are. An offensive line, it's now time for them to get back in the trenches.
Agreed. And I just would like to say, I am not wearing the New York Jets jersey tonight because of anything other than 2 reasons. One, it's our mock draft, which I always wear the jersey for. I will be wearing the Denzel Ward jersey when we do the live draft react. But it's Masters Sunday. I had to wear green. Jacksonville, who do you have at 5?
I have them taking Mason Graham, the defensive lineman out of Michigan.
Yeah, that's who Kuiper has too. I think that's a good pick for them. I would have gone quarterback because I think Sunshine's a piece of trash, but that's just me.
Yeah, but I don't actually think that they're desperate enough to reach for
No,
Shador if he slips here.
no,
I
I
think
don't think
I
they are.
think you've got enough in the tank with Lawrence to be able to get you through another year or two.
Yeah, I think you've got enough in the money in him too that you're going to have to keep it there. Jim, after six, I like to kind of cherry pick picks here because I think six is one that is very interesting with the Raiders. Mel Kiper, myself, and I think you also have them taking Ashton Genty, the running back out of Boise State.
Yes.
Pete Carroll is the new head coach of the Raiders. Geno Smith, his one-time quarterback, is the new quarterback of the Raiders, fresh with his new extension. Ashton Genty might be the closest thing to beast mode they're going to find. And you already have Max Crosby and good defensive pieces on the other side of the ball. Pete Carroll's trying to rebuild the Legion of Boom here, and he's going to play defense and run the football.
The only difference with Genty is that he's not going to be like Marshawn, and I'm sorry, it's obligatory. We have to play it.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
But Genty is not somebody who's going to run over people and give you that Legion of Boom type offense that Marshawn did. He's definitely going to be able to get his yardage. Because Kansas City does not have the greatest front seven. The Chargers do not have the greatest front seven. Now that they've actually changed things over, Denver might have the best, the best defense in that division. Quite honestly, Denver might have a top 3 defense in the AFC next year.
Mm-hmm.
Could Denver possibly be knocking on the door of Kansas City in the next couple of years? With all the changeover that the Chiefs are going through, you can never count the Chiefs out. But I think Ashton Genty is the right move here. He's the guy who, quite honestly, a lot of people thought should have won the Heisman. He's one of those atypical backs. You never take a running back in the first round. Bijan Robinson is an enigma, that you take inside the top 10. Ashton Genty is another one of those that you take inside the top 10. There's not many of them.
No, and my assessment of him, like Marshawn, is not so much the guy who will run people over, but he can run between the tackles. The difference between Genty and Marshawn is I think Genty's got a little faster. He's got the breakaway big play. He's the home run hitter.
Marshawn he also cuts a little bit better.
Yeah, Marshawn to get you a yard, Pete Carroll, you asshole. But Genty will get you 60 at the blink of an eye. Here's what I was thinking. Let's jump down to 9 because I think that's where it gets interesting.
Well, let's go with the Jets at 7. Let's just do the top 10 here real quick, and then we'll cherry pick because we still got about 15 minutes left in the segment.
Okay, so we got they have Membo,
Jets at 7.
The Jets at 7. Membo, the OT out of Missouri, is your Mizzou Tigers. What do you think? What did you have? Same.
Shador. I think they go for the home run because they need the quarterback. Russell Wilson is not going to be there very long.
Well, Wilson's with the Giants now.
Okay. I'm sorry. Then really, you don't have really anything there, and Shador, if he's going to bring that big ego and that big show with him with his daddy and everything, even though his daddy's not going to be there, point blank. They always want to go for the flash and flare. And let's also be honest, Woody Johnson's an idiot, maybe even a bigger idiot than Jerry Jones. He's going to go out and he's going to try and get the big name that's going to draw people in because, let's be honest, the Jets blow.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go with Shador here. I honestly don't. I think Aaron Glenn and the new GM, I can't remember his name, but they are going to run the football operations. Remember, they have a little cachet in the coaching box with Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is a former Jet, a first-round pick former Jet. This is the job he wanted. I don't believe he would have taken this job with the really good setup he had in Detroit running that defense if he didn't have the autonomy to make this pick. I believe they will go with the offensive tackle. They are going to run the pit. This is going to be the closest thing to Rex Ryan that the New York Jets have seen since he left. They are going to run the piss out of the football. Shador's not that guy. Justin Fields is that guy. I'm not saying Fields is going to be the Jet quarterback to take him to the promised land. I think the Jets are too fucked up to do that. But I think Fields will be a better fit with the scheme they want to run than Shador's going to be. Who's 8 is Carolina. Who you got there?
I have Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia.
Okay, so Mel's got Jalen Walker, the linebacker. I think either way they're going to go with a Georgia player here, which would make, Glitterbug real happy. I think they have to go linebacker here. Their front four was really good. I think they run a 4-3. Their D line was pretty good last year. Their linebacking core needs help. Honestly, the linebacking core has needed help since Luke Kuechly retired. That's why I like Walker here. From what I saw from when he played for Kirby, he played outside for Kirby, but I think they can move him in because he's got that prototypical speed to go sideline to sideline.
The Saints on the clock at 9. Where are you going?
They're taking Shador, especially with the announcement that Derek Carr may be going for the year.
I think if Shador slips, this is as far as he goes. But with me having him come off the board at 7, I actually went offensive lineman Kelvin Banks from Texas here. Because I figure whoever their quarterback's got to be, they got to keep him up right. If Carr's going to be done for the year, yeah, so be it. But the Saints are in a little bit of a predicament as well, where it could be a little bit of an attractive offer that they came that close to getting to the playoffs last year, 2 years ago, and they've got a lot of uncertainty, but yet it's still a very competitive division with the fact that nobody really runs out. Even though this has been Tampa's division the last couple of years, they haven't run away with it. So it's definitely a wide open division. Could they catch like a Geno Smith type lightning in a bottle with a secondary tier quarterback or like a Sam Darnold at something like that? So me personally, I think them shoring up their offensive line definitely works out a little bit better.
Yeah, I think they take Shador because you're talking about Spencer Rattler now being the starter. If Carr is out for the year and they don't go quarterback here, or Shador goes off the board early. I like Shador here. I think him with Chris Olave and some of the other offensive weapons they have is a nice thing to have. But who knows? I mean, we're going to lose our shit Thursday night one way or another.
Right.
But speaking of the NFC South, remember also it's a brand new starter in Atlanta in Michael Penix Jr. It's still, listen, Tampa is going to be Tampa. So it is Tampa's division to lose until someone proves me otherwise. Carolina is not there yet. The Saints aren't really there yet. So this is a 2-horse race between Atlanta and Tampa. I think Tampa's going to win the division just because that's my fucking boy. But that remains to be seen. But you are right. It is wide open in the NFC South. No one's really put the flag on it in the last few years. How much of a gift are we giving our friend in Chicago?
Tyler Booker, the offensive lineman from Alabama. You have your quarterback. You have some of your weapons. You could shore up your defense, but I think now that you actually have the idea that Caleb was as good as we thought he was going to be and then was limited, give him in year 2, give him a better offensive line, and see what he can do.
I think they're going to do what Kuiper has near, and that is Tyler Warren, the all-world tight end from Penn State. He's the guy that James Franklin and that offense used in so many different looks and almost got them to the national championship game where he was the leading receiver throughout their playoff run. So, I mean, that's interesting to me. If I'm the Bears, I go offensive line. If I'm the Bears, I pick however many picks they have in this draft, offensive linemen. They are so god-awful on the offensive line, it's not even funny. Alex is confirmed for the draft, so we may be having a lot of fun with him by pick 10.
Take a few picks. Take a few picks and give me some ones that stand out for you now for the rest of the first round, and then we'll spend the last couple of minutes talking about the Browns at 33.
Amari and Hampton to the Cowboys at 12, two running backs in the top 15. That's unfucking heard of. That's one that surprised me. The fact that the Miami Dolphins are going to take anybody but an offensive lineman.
I have them going defensive line. Actually, give me your picks and I'll counter. I actually have Matthew Golden, the receiver from Texas, going to Dallas at 12.
Okay, so and then I think they're going to take a running back as well. I think Omari and Hampton's off the board there. The Dolphins taking Jahadi Brown, the defensive back from Texas.
Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman from Mississippi, I have.
Again, no. No, you have captain concussion under center. No, you need to protect him. Interesting enough, at 16, Arizona, Matthew Golden to team with Marvin Harrison. I like that. That's an interesting move.
Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas.
So you have it flipped. You have Miami taking Golden and okay. Hey, here's a shocker. The Bengals take defense at 17. Who you got?
I have them going defense. I want to see who you have.
Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama.
Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M.
Nice. Because I think, and this is not being homerish, I think this is what's going to happen, what Cincinnati's going to do. They've done it before, and they just lost the last guy they did it with. I think in their second-round pick, they're going to take Jack Sawyer. They did it with Sam Hubbard. And Hubbard was very good. But I think they're going to take Jack Sawyer. So we talked about Baker. Let's talk about Tampa. And here at 19, Tampa takes Nick Emenwari, the safety out of South Carolina.
I actually have Emenwari going to Philly at 32, but I have them going Derek Harmon, the defensive lineman out of Oregon.
I might almost want to go O-line here for Baker. Washington got a lot of pressure on him in that playoff game. That, quite frankly, they should have fucking won. But listen, they also got taken advantage of in the secondary. Not a bad move, either way.
I want to see what you think at 20 and 21.
20, McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, goes to Denver.
This is the one that I think is the scariest pick of the entire first round. Denver goes Jahad Campbell, the all-world linebacker out of Alabama, to shore up and give the meanest front seven in all of football.
If Jahad Campbell falls to Denver, I think Kansas City's on alert. Because Campbell can cover Travis Kelce and could probably fucking knock him out. And at 21, those fucks. They have Derek Harmon in here for Pittsburgh, the D tackle out of Oregon. I personally think they're going to take Jackson Dart.
I have Jackson Dart as well. I think that they're going to learn their lesson from Kenny Pickett, and they're going to get a guy who a lot of people are saying should fall no further than the second round. Do they reach a little bit? Yes. But right now, you have basically nothing in your quarterback room. You need to bring somebody in.
You do. Moving down to 24, James. Minnesota, Donovan Jackson, the offensive lineman, the offensive guard out of Ohio State, the first Buckeye off the board. I'd love this pick for them, especially if they got that fucker from that other school going to line up under center. And JJ missing a year with an injury. And Darnold now in Seattle. Hey, you need to protect JJ. You've got the weapons. You've got the line. You've got the running backs. You've got the wide receivers. You need to protect him. So I like Donovan Jackson there.
Siobhan Rebel Jr., the cornerback from ECU, from East Carolina.
Why would you go defense and not want to protect him? And this is not because it's Donovan Jackson. This is just me wondering.
For me personally, it's because Minnesota actually showed late in the year that you can throw all over them. So they need to be able to start to contain some of those receivers on the outside. I want to slide back to 23 for a second. I have Emeka Ibuka going to Green Bay to give Jordan Love an extra target.
I like that. However, I will like even better where I have him going. Kuiper.
You
at
have
23.
him going to the Rams at 26, don't you?
Fuck no. Because I'm going to help Harbaugh.
He's going to
so I'm
go.
gonna help
He's going to go
the
30 to Buffalo.
No.
Okay,
25 to Houston.
you're going to like where I went with Houston. CJ Stroud needs to stay upright. Correct.
Agreed.
Who do you think I'm going with?
Are you going Donovan Jackson there?
I'm going Josh Simmons, the O-line from Ohio State, because they played together.
He was their left tackle. He was CJ's left tackle. So real quick, Kuiper has Michael Williams, the outside linebacker from Georgia, going to Green Bay. That tracks more because Green Bay doesn't draft receivers in the first round. They don't. Never have. But yeah, at 25, I have Emeka Ibuka going there. Look, you lost the cancer in the locker room. You still have Tank Dell. You still have the other kid from Michigan. What the fuck is his name? I can't remember his name. Plays for Houston.
We'll think about it later.
Yeah. But you add in a guy who, if we're talking about going from college to the pros, this is the leading wide receiver in the history of Ohio State. And a guy that loved to play with CJ Stroud. So I like that there. Who do you have at 26 here?
I was going to say, let's wrap up. Oh, I've got McMillan, the receiver from Arizona, to the Rams at 26. But let's go through the final 4 picks of the first round here very, very quickly. Let's go the final 4. Let's go Washington, Buffalo, KC, Philly.
All right, so Washington, they have Shamar Stewart, the DM from Texas A&M.
I actually went the other side of their line. Texas A&M, Nick Skirton, the edge rusher, to Washington.
Okay. 30 Buffalo, Maxwell Harrison, defensive back out of Kentucky.
Luther Burden, the receiver from Missouri.
Kansas City, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State.
Offensive tackle Armand Mebo from Mizzou. I think he slips.
James Pierce Jr., the linebacker from Tennessee, to the Philadelphia Eagles.
And I said earlier, Philly at 32 gets Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina.
Real quick, 33 Browns. Who you got?
We still got a minute and a half here left in the segment. We can actually even spread this segment out an extra minute or two. I want to know who you want to go with, and if it's the same person I'm thinking of, I kind of want to give the counter argument.
I'm going to pull the trigger, Jim. 33rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State. I watched the Gruden thing, and I watched him break it down. Stop. I watched him break it down. Now, is the fact that the quarterback from Louisville could be getting an AARP card by his first start? That's a possibility.
Either Shuck.
Yeah, he's 26. It smells of Brandon Weedon. It smells of Band-Aid on a vascular bleed, John. If you take him. You're talking about a guy in Howard who not only put the only blemish on TCU's record the year they went to the playoff, he just quarterbacked Ohio State to a national championship. He beat 5 top 5 teams. Or 8 top 10 teams. He's not ready to start day one, but if you're not taking a quarterback at 2 and you're gonna let Flacco play this year, or even Kenny Pickett, you're gonna develop a guy, I think Howard's the one to develop.
I've been saying it for 2 months now. Will Howard is a 3rd-round pick at best, and you might even still be reaching for that. I get that the kid is good. Tyler Shuck. If Tyler Shuck was not 26 years old, he would be the consensus #1 pick in this draft, and it would not even be close. The fact that I think that Will Howard is a good quarterback, Tyler Shuck is a better quarterback, and the only knock on him right now is the fact that he's 26. He's more polished. He's worked under Brian Brom. who was also Lamar's guy when he was at Louisville years ago. Remember, Brian Brown was also a second-round pick coming out of Louisville himself and was
Mhm.
rushed when he played with the Packers back in 2008. And I was very high on Brian Brown when he came out. Louisville, when they turn out these late first, early second round quarterbacks, typically they don't miss. Now, again, Brom, how good was Brian Brom going to be when he had to sit behind Brett Favre during that time? And it sidetracked his career. But I think Shuck makes all the reads. You don't need to have incredible arm strength because I honestly think that arm strength is insanely overrated now. You need to be
Agreed.
accurate and be able to throw a deep ball. But I think he's better polished with what he's got. Will Howard is good. Tyler Shuck, I think, is quite a bit better.
I wouldn't say quite a bit, to be honest. And again, I've actually gone and watched this.
If I had to score them, I'd say that Will Howard is about for where they're sitting right now. I want to say that Will Howard's around an 85. For the way that Tyler Shuck is with his mechanics and where he would fall to the Browns, Will Howard would be an 85 for the Browns. Tyler Shuck would be about a 90.
Okay. And listen, I think you and I are splitting hairs on this, to be honest with you. Because, and I will say this, I think Tyler Shuck could go in and start this year. I honestly believe he could. I don't think Howard could.
That's the other aspect. Go ahead and finish your statement, and I'll end this with my counterpoint.
But I will say this. I think because of age, and I think because of competition played, Howard might have a higher ceiling but a lower floor. Shuck's going to have the higher floor and about the same ceiling. So we're really splitting hairs here, to be honest with you. Of course, I've watched a lot more Will Howard than I have Tyler Shuck, obviously. But I don't think the Browns could go wrong either way if the plan is to let this guy sit this year and only play him if we have to. Put him third, have him hold the clipboard.
And that's where I think the argument comes down to, is because if you're drafting Will Howard, you have him sit for an entire year. The only way that he gets in a game is if you're down by 20 in the fourth quarter or you're up by 20 in the fourth quarter. And that's the only time that he comes in. And he might not even come in until midway through the fourth quarter. I think Tyler Shuck, the fact is you can't sit him because then he'd be 27 and the shelf life would be shorter. I think if something happens and things bottom out with Pickett and also Joe Flacco, and you don't actually go out and have another guy in there, off the free agent heap, he would have the capability to come in maybe in a second half if you needed to get him the reps, to get him to take over. But I also think the fact that he's actually played that extra fifth year as a grad student, he's already basically set for this. Keep in mind that when Whedon came out, Whedon had played 6, almost 7 years, but the college game now is so much closer to the NFL, and that's where I think that Shuck is a lot more polished than Brandon Whedon was, and I think Shuck is a better fit at 32 than Will Howard would be for that reason.
No, and listen, like I said, we're splitting hairs here. And you're absolutely right. I think Shuck is more polished. But the question is he polished enough to take over a team that now has to put their chips in the middle because of everything they want to accomplish outside of the field? This is the guy you need to lead you into that new stadium. Is Shuck that guy, or are we talking about a franchise reset in a couple years?
I think Shuck would have a better chance of that because if you're looking to put that team into a new stadium, the only reason you're doing it with Will Howard is about 30% because you think he's the guy and 70% because he's a Buckeye.
Agreed.
I think at that point you are placating to the fans, and that's why I think Shuck is a better option here, because at that point, then you take the Columbus aspect completely out of it, and it takes all the extra pressure off of him for the fact that he actually that the pro team is so bad that they cheer for the team that plays on Saturday instead. Name another franchise that does that. And that's also one of the other big problems I have with the Buckeyes is not even so much the elitism, but also sitting here in Cleveland that I hear just as much Columbus talk for a team 2.5 hours away than I do the team on Sunday that gets a ton of run to begin with.
Agreed. And I'm with you. But I will say this. If I could just have the last word on the pick 33. And this is going to probably make your head explode. I don't think they could go wrong either way. That swing and miss with Deshaun was so fucking bad. You get a quarterback, either way, you're going to be playing with house money. Because you've already brought Flacco back. They're going to bring Chubb back because it's talking about placating the fans. You got to shut them the fuck up. Your quarterback doesn't have to hit in the first round.
What if you actually address another position, and what if there's a shot that Howard's there early in the third? That I would not have an issue with. I have a big problem with taking Howard at the first pick of the second round, because basically at that point you're equating him to a first rounder.
Agreed. I will say this. I would be more shocked that Howard was there in the third than Shuck going at 33. I think Howard's going in the second round.
Somebody also brought up the point, and I'll let you get the last word, and let me throw the question out. Now that bringing Flacco in and then also having Pickett compete for this, and if they can stay healthy, do they not even take a quarterback and look towards next year? But then again, if they're relatively competitive, are they out of the running for one of those guys next year? Are you willing to possibly tank to be able to get one of the studs that could come out next year, where it's a much better quarterback class on paper?
They don't have the ability to tank. As a franchise, they don't have the ability. You've got to take a quarterback this year. It does not have to be high, because by taking Abdul Carter at 2, you will now have the best pass rush package in the NFL. Plain and simple. You don't need to take him high. You need to get it right. Depending on who the coach is moving forward, that could be interesting. But both Howard and Shuck are the type of quarterbacks like the guys who got them to the playoffs, i.e. Baker and Flacco.
And that's where I think that boils down to where they do not take Shedeur at 2, because Shedeur is also very much like the skill set of the guy that you are shoving out the door. This team is now going to start getting back to a pocket passer type mentality and a less mobile quarterback. They're going to have a mobile quarterback, but not a running quarterback, and that is what Shedeur is.
He's not, though.
But he does have the speed and everything that he can make himself a running back if he wanted to in certain sets. Shuck, Howard, Dart, they're not going to do that. They're going to be very Elway or Favre like that. They're going to be mobile, but they are only going to take off when the pocket collapses completely around them. It is not going to be their first option.
Yeah, no, Shedeur's not like that either. Shedeur, you're talking about a guy who was sacked as much as he was because his offensive line was dog shit. If he was a runner first, he would have never been sacked that many times. But they're not going to take Shedeur anyway. And if they do, I think we're just going to turn the show off. At least that night. But we have other stuff to get to, James. Hey, good job on the draft, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It happened about an hour and a half ago, less than 2 hours ago. It is the best thing. It is the best piece of televised sports we will see the entire month, and that's including what happened back on Monday. The career slam is a reality, as Rory McIlroy squandered a 4-shot lead on the back nine, missed a 7-foot near gimme on 18, bogeyed, went to a playoff, and then won, and then cried on the green on 18 for a good solid 2 minutes, and wins his first green jacket.
What an amazing, amazing story. I love Rory McIlroy. You and I talked about this off the air. His daughter hitting that putt in the par 3 was the putt of the week. She's 4. What was that, 25 feet downhill?
Yep.
Jesus. But I will say this. ESPN called it the Rory coaster. From what you're telling me, you went to a party to watch the final round. I was watching the final round this year.
And that's why we came up late. My cousin throws a Masters party every year. So we got all together over there. They were at Augusta last year for some of the practice rounds. So they actually had like one of the flags from the 24 Masters. They had all of their Masters gear on that they bought from down there at Augusta. Um, but it was right out of the gate. It was Rory and Bryson DeChambeau paired in the final group. Um, Immediately, Rory ends up in a bunker, takes a double on one. DeChambeau bogey. So Rory's one shot lead. They are basically back to even. And then, I'm sorry, Rory took a double on one. And then DeChambeau basically gave it right back a few holes later. And then they were neck and neck. But all of a sudden, here comes the ageless veteran Justin Rose. And Rose goes on a tear on the back nine like nobody I've ever seen. He is 3 groups ahead of the leaders, and he basically puts himself in a position to where going into 18, he's on 18, Rory's on 17, and Rory basically just needs to par out to get himself the victory. Rose birdies 18, puts the pressure on, and now that means that Rory he's got to par 18. Typically, 17 has been Rory's Achilles heel, where Rory has never won at Augusta, and hence now getting the career slam. In hindsight, now with Justin Rose finishing second, he now actually is tied, I believe, for the most second place finishes at the Masters with 4.
Really?
Yes. And they put the graphic up on CBS for players that were going for the career slam, how many attempts it actually took in the next major to get that. The 5 that came before, Sarazen, Hogan, Woods, Nicholas, and I'm trying to remember the 5th. But they all were there in less than 3. Rory had 3 pieces of this, and this was his 11th time at Augusta to try and create the career slam.
I didn't realize it was that many since he won the 3rd one.
Yup. It's been 11. Well, I mean, he's won other majors since then, but the fact that he had an 11-year gap, 11 tries at Augusta to finally get that green jacket, and everyone now understands why he basically threw the putter in the air over his head, tipped his cap back, and then sobbed uncontrollably, laying face down on the green over the hole.
I mean, first of all, Augusta's just a different kind of place. I mean, the U.S. Open changes spots, the British changes spots, the Tour Championship changes spots. Augusta is the only one that's the same thing every year. You have some of the most iconic wins in golf history at Augusta. Of course, you have Jack winning in 1986. What was he, 45?
Correct.
You have Tiger winning in 97, that first Masters with Jim Nance's iconic A Win for the Ages call. And then, of course, you have Tiger in 2019 with the Return to Glory call. Phil won his first major there. Mark O'Meara, of course, the year after Tiger wins, O'Meara wins the Masters that his buddy had won the year before. Augusta's just, it's Augusta. And I didn't realize it took him that long to win there.
But all the storylines today that, DeChambeau and Rory stumbling out of the gate and then getting themselves kind of back to it. DeChambeau absolutely shitting the bed, on the back nine. It's and for Rory to basically be in this position with the fact that he actually had 3 bogeys and 2 doubles and still went to a playoff, even though, again, he missed the 7-footer. I was watching it, and I said, watch him push it left. And sure enough, he pushes it left. And I'm sitting in a house full of nothing but golf fans at the time. My cousin's wife, shout out to you, Kels, if you're going to be watching this later, which you actually said that you might be. She was so wrapped up in this, never really having watched golf like this before. We're explaining everything to her, the on-screen scoring, the graphics and everything. And she's like, that was so good. I would definitely watch something like that again. I said, they have one on every week. It's not going to be nearly as exciting as
No.
this, but this is like their Super Bowl. And for the fact that this happened at this tournament just shows you how special this game is. DeChambeau shit in the bed. Which, for a guy who hates live like I do, good on him, even though he's a lot more likable now than he used to be. There was a story that actually came out that after he had gotten done doing a practice thing, one of the house he had rented a house kind of in Augusta, and he went out for a walk late at night, and he actually saw a bunch of guys, practice putting on one of the greens. Well, it turns out the green was on the property at the house that he rented, and instead of him throwing them out, he's sitting out there playing with the guys for an hour, practice putting with the guys for an hour and shooting the shit.
He's a good dude.
DeChambeau is a good dude, but to be able to see Justin Rose get himself in that position,
I was
from
just going to say that.
far
First,
back as he was,
he shot 66. You don't have that moment for Rory, even missing that putt if Rose doesn't shoot 66. The set of balls on Justin Rose to shoot a fucking 66 in the final round of the Masters to force a playoff. And yeah, Rory had his moments. But I want to talk about Rose a little bit because you said the wily veteran that, how are you going to go out and just be like, I'm shooting 66, I'm coming for you?
We knew something was up when Rory and DeChambeau were coming back to the pack a little bit, and nobody kind of really came up and challenged them. So it was something where you saw some of the guys in the middle of the pack, really, really start to kind of get a little bit closer. Scotty Scheffler was still in there. Ludwig Ahlberg from Sweden was in there. Patrick Reed was in there. And then to be able to see Rose just start inching a little bit closer, and it's like, okay, he's only 3 back now. Now he's 2 back. And then the run that he goes on the back 9 and then puts himself in the clubhouse, basically a shot back at that point. We even actually all, I said it and everyone agreed with me. I said, now the hardest part of his day begins. Waiting.
Yeah, and especially then you got to warm it back up to go play the 18th hole. I mean, what a great day. I mean, Jim Nantz, did he call the Final Four? Did he call the championship game?
Correct.
Jim Nantz has the coolest job in the world
Yep.
because every few years it's the Super Bowl, it's the NCAA the Final Four, and it's the weekend at Augusta.
And for Rose to be
Who did the Super Bowl
leading,
this year?
I'm sorry?
Who did the Super Bowl this year? Was it Buck and Troy?
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't it Fox?
It was Kevin Burkhardt and
Okay.
it was Burkhardt and Brady.
And remember, Justin Rose led after Saturday, after cut day, had a terrible. I think he shot 73. I think he shot 3 over. He might have shot like 72 or something like that.
Yeah, he
on
shot 3
Saturday.
over on
He was,
Saturday.
and that put him still in the top 10, but he was 3 groups ahead of the leaders. And to be able to claw his way back, just going out lighting Augusta on fire this afternoon.
He did. It was very Woods-esque what he did on the back 9. I mean,
I will say this much: if Ludwig Ahlberg would have actually hit any putts on the front 9, we're talking about him wearing his first green jacket and running away with this thing. Because even though he ended up with a triple on 11 and put himself at and finished at a -6, he hits half of the putts that he missed going up to about 15. We're talking, instead of him, even with the triple, he still possibly could have been in this playoff as well.
Jesus.
He hit every shot he needed to, minus his putts. Whereas, Rose may have actually had a couple of mistakes off the tee and everything, but definitely scrambled, and his putting was top notch. But there were two shots that Rory hit when he got into the tree areas. He had missed his drives. One he missed terribly, and he's a good 20, 30 feet in the pine straw. He's got a tree and then a camera tower in front of him, and he hits it and he's about a good maybe 130 yards out, puts it within 18 feet. He's
Jesus
walking
Christ.
up the fairway and he's laughing because he's even in amaze he hit that shot.
Oh yeah. Well, if you remember, in 2019, he was in the final group of Tiger, and walking up, he laughed the whole time. I am so glad he got his slam. I really am. I adore him. He's one of the few players post Tiger that people could wrap their hands around, and not find them to be just boring Tiger cutouts, like the Tony Finau's, the guys like that. Rory's his own dude, but Rory's the fan favorite we've needed for the last 10 years.
So the 6 players that have completed the career Grand Slam and the years that they did it: Gene Sarazen got his slam at the 1935 Masters, Ben Hogan at the 1953 Open Championship, Gary Player at the 65 U.S. Open, Jack the following year at the 66 British Open, Tiger at the 2000 Open Championship, and then Rory today. 6 golfers in the history of this sport have ever done the career slam.
Arnie never did it. Well, you got to add Bobby Jones in there, but that was back in those days. He won the 4.
Right.
He won the British
yeah,
Amateur.
they're
and
talking
the
in
British
the
Open.
they're talking in the modern era.
Okay. So I was going to say, because Bobby won it in 1 year. It was the British Amateur, the British Open, the U.S. Amateur, and the U.S. Open.
Arnold finished third twice at the PGA: 64, 68, and 70.
He never won the PGA.
Nope.
So I was saying, knew he won the Claret, and I knew he had a couple of green jackets. And I was almost positive he won it, the U.S. Open. I realized he didn't win the PGA.
Bobby Jones never won he never participated in the PGA because I don't think it was around then. He won the Open 4 times. He won the U.S. Open 4 times. He won the Open 3 times, the British Amateur, and then his best finish was 13th at the Masters. So yeah, that's why they're saying modern era, because PGA Championship wasn't established until he was long off the tour.
Yeah, and like I said, the year he won all 4, the 4 that year, where it's the U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Open, the British Amateur, and the British Open, he won all 4 going away. That's why, they call it the Tiger Slam, because he did the 4 in a row, but it was 3 in 2000 and, of course, the 01 Masters.
This is amazing. I just looked up Bobby Jones for that stat. Bobby Jones had 9 wins on the PGA Tour. 8 of them were majors.
Yeah, the dude was nasty in the big tournaments.
But I'm definitely going to be doing. I've got a Rory piece that I'm going to start working on tomorrow. I will try and get that out by no later than Wednesday, especially with all the stats that are just coming out and the history and everything that was compiled with this. Rory actually hit another one into the first cut of grass and then went straight up in the air with his second shot and basically put it just short of the green. We all thought that something was up on 18 when all he had to do was put it in the center of the green, and I don't want to say he duffed it, but he definitely left it short and put it in the front side bunker and then had to get up and down. And again, that's where he missed the 7-footer that would have given him the win outright. And then you could definitely tell he hit a perfect draw off the tee on 18 in the playoff. Justin Rose hit a very good drive as well. They were both dead center on the fairway. Rory just actually pulled. I hate to use the stupid analogy for as great of a tournament as we're talking, but it was the Happy Gilmore approach shot. Somebody's closer, because Rose just pushed his slightly right, and Rory made his. So Rose hit his. Rose was on the green, I want to say, with about 10 feet, and then Rory put his on with about 3 feet to spare. So it was basically a tap in, but Rose just missed out, and then it would have actually pushed it to a second hole, and then that would have been something that you had to start maybe thinking about at this point, because then they go back and they play 18 again. Well, then you actually have to worry about, if we keep doing this, are we going to have to actually push the champion to Monday with next to nobody there because of darkness? Because remember, it's
Yeah.
one whole sudden death at Augusta.
Yeah, no, and I actually prefer the way the U.S. Open does it.
The 18-hole playoff on Monday. Yep.
I actually prefer that. I mean, that one with Rocco and Tiger was just awesome. That was 17 years ago.
This was also the first playoff win at the Masters since Sergio
2011.
2011. You know who he beat in the playoff?
Did he beat Rory?
Justin Rose.
Damn it. Son of a bitch. Rose has got to be pissed.
I mean, he's 44. He's going to be 45 in July.
He's our
Rose
age.
in majors, he's only got his one major, and that's a testament to how good he is, because we always assume Justin Rose has more. He's got that 2013 U.S. Open. He's finished third at the PGA. He's finished now third 3 times at the Masters. He's finished second at the Open. Remember, he was second in the Open last year. Who did he lose to at the Open? Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh, that's right. Bryson won the British last year. Okay. What with the U.S. Open is next, and that is Father's Day.
That's not.
Yeah, because the Claret's in July,
I don't want the U.S. Open tennis tournament.
which is the better tournament. And where are they playing this year's U.S. Open?
They are at Oakmont this year,
Again,
June 12th through the 15th.
Father's Day weekend. Hey, Stuart.
Next year they're at Shinnecock.
Oh, whatever. Go back to Beth Page.
Beth Page is definitely going to be hosting their own later on this year.
What do they got?
The Ryder Cup is at Beth Page.
The Ryder Cup's on the Black Horse. Ooh, I'm watching that. I love me some Ryder Cup.
So congratulations to Rory again. I'll be talking more about him a little later on this week. Please go watch the highlights. If you get a chance to watch a replay of the coverage of this, if you have any of the Masters apps on your Roku TV, or you have Paramount Plus, I would definitely recommend going back and watch this. This was one of the most entertaining final rounds of golf I've ever seen.
Oh, Paramount Plus. I actually have that now. I think I will go back and watch that.
But we go from two guys in a playoff to now talking about 16, actually now 20 teams that are officially in the playoffs.
The 2024-2025 NBA season finished today. And James, I think you need to play the level up music after I say this. Congratulations to the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, our Cleveland Cavaliers. It is the first 1 seed in Cleveland history that does not include the last name James. And I tell you what, you lost 2 games to Indiana recently where you didn't play anyone, and you lost by a grand total of 12 points in those 2 games.
Here's what's funny. It's today's game against the Pacers. They sat every single starter with the exception of one. Do you know who it was, and do you know how long he played?
Was it Darius or Jared?
Jared, so he could get all 82 games
All
in.
82.
He played for
What'd he play?
1 minute and got yanked.
So with no one and the Pacers having to play most of their starters, Halliburton didn't play today. Cavs still nearly won that game.
I mean, it went to double overtime and they lost, but yeah, it's a Jalen Tyson had himself a great game in the starting role.
Bates played well. Michael Porter Jr. played well. So I have a lot of faith in Kenny Atkinson to lead this team deep into the summer. That hopefully Father's Day weekend we're not just watching golf. But right now, as we get to it, the Eastern Conference shakes out this way.
I'll actually, if you give me 15 seconds, I will actually get you the entire playoff bracket because it's now set.
Okay.
All right, so the bracket will look like this. The Cavaliers finish first in the East. The Celtics are the 2 in the East. They will actually get buys technically for right now. The Pacers will get the 4 seed. The Bucks are the 5 seed. So there's your 4-5 matchup with Indiana getting the home court. The Knicks locked up the 3 seed today with their win, and the Pistons will actually have the 6 seed outright. Your play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference, the 7 seed are the Orlando Magic, the 8 seed are the Atlanta Hawks. That game will take place on Tuesday night. The winner of that game goes to Boston for game 1 on Sunday. The loser of that game will play the winner of the 9-10 game, which will be the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. The winner of that game will then face the Cavaliers on Sunday in the 1-8 matchup.
So if we're handicapping the Eastern Conference right now, I think Orlando's going to win that game against Atlanta as they have home court. So Atlanta will go to Boston and play the Celtics. And I believe, I'm going to say it here, I think the Bulls will lose to Miami.
You think Atlanta wins that game?
I think Atlanta wins the second game
Against,
I think
okay.
against the Bulls. I think the Bulls are going to beat.
Well, whoever wins that Atlanta-Orlando game, they get the 7, and they're going to move on.
That's what I said. I said
Okay.
Orlando's going to go to Boston. And I think that Atlanta will win the second game and end up coming to Cleveland that Sunday. Which, listen, Orlando and Atlanta gave the Cavs some problems. Let's pray for Miami or the Bulls, huh?
Yeah, but the thing is that with Orlando, it's not like last year where it was a 4-5 matchup. You were clearly superior to them in every way, shape, or form this year. And then you're likely going to be 100% because Donovan Mitchell, with his ankle injury, should be 100% ready to go by this time next week.
Yeah, and if the Cavs at 100% strength, remember, they went to 7 games with no Jared Allen. Donovan was hobbled. Darius Garland coming off a bad season because of the injuries he had during the season. And Evan Mobley wasn't nearly what he was this year, nor did they have the bench with Ty Jerome. I mean, this is a different Cavs team with a better coach. I think Chicken Fucker is not getting out of the first round. I think they're going to lose to the Knicks.
If we slide over to the West, the number 1 seed are the 68-14 and best record in basketball, Oklahoma City Thunder. The 2 seed are the Houston Rockets. They will have their buys. Your 3-6 matchup are the ever impressive and stunning in the second half Los Angeles Lakers, who will meet the number 6 seed Minnesota Timberwolves, who, without a win today in their finale, could have potentially slid into the play-in tournament. Your 4-5 matchup is extremely interesting because the Denver Nuggets will play the LA Clippers, who have identical 50-32 records.
And congratulations to the Joker for being the 3rd player all time to finish the season with a triple-double. in averages, joining Oscar Robertson and, of course, the wonderful Brody that is Russell Westbrook.
Your 7-8 matchup in the play-in tournament will be the identical record 48-34 Golden State Warriors, who will host the Memphis Grizzlies.
I like Memphis.
And then your 9-10 matchup will be the Sacramento Kings, who, even after moving De'Aaron Fox, still found a way to get themselves into the playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks, who still
Sacramento.
somehow, some way found a way to get themselves into the play-in, only 4 games under 500.
Sacramento.
So
And I think Golden State plays Sacramento and wins, and Golden State has to play OKC.
Well, if Golden State
they
would beat the Grizzlies, they would get the 7. So you think the Grizzlies win in San Diego, or San Francisco, I'm sorry. And so they would actually go to Houston, and then that would actually have to mean the Warriors hold court against the Kings or the Mavericks.
Yep. I think they're going to lose to Ja, and I think they're going to beat the Kings, and they're going to have to go to OKC and get their fucking clocks cleaned. I got to be honest with you. If I'm handicapping this right now, and the matchups what we're talking about, the Cavs in 5 over Atlanta. I have Boston in 6 over Orlando. I have the Knicks in. I think the Knicks are going to sweep Detroit. And the only 7-game series in the first round is going to be the Pacers and the Bucks, because they play each other 4 times a year. They know each other pretty damn well. And I think Giannis and Dame are better than Halliburton and whoever. And Halliburton, who's the guy? Obi Toppin. Are better than Halliburton and Toppin. But the problem is their supporting cast is dog shit, and the Pacers have a good bench. Western Conference, if it goes the way we want, OKC is going to wipe the floor with Golden State. Thank God. Houston, there's your upset. There's your upset. I think Houston loses to Memphis. The Lakers are going to hold serve. The Lakers are scary to me. And if this thing really is scripted, you know who's going to be in the finals. Because there's only one matchup that draws more attention than Lakers and Celtics, and that's Lakers and Cavs. But yeah, I think
I'm not going to predict here. There's a part of me that still feels that the Cavs need to prove themselves against the Celtics, because it stands right now with the way that they've been experimenting with these lineups and kind of throwing off the dichotomy a little bit. I have no I don't think I'm totally out of left field by saying there's still a part of me that might still be thinking Celtics in 6 in that series.
With Jaylen Brown having to get multiple injections into his knee, I don't think so. I don't think Porzingis and Jason Tatum beat a fully healthy Cavs team. They don't.
But let's first of all, we got to see how they look in the first round, because that's going to be a telltale sign, because they should easily be able to run over in no more than 5 in the first round. If it's something where you're looking at 6, if not 7, it gives you a lot of scarcity. Kind of like what we saw in March last month with the NCAA tournament, that you had all these number 1 seeds that would get pressed. Who's got the mettle to get themselves through, and who actually, and then especially with the 2 seed, we didn't actually see too many of the 2 seeds really pressed until you got to the Elite 8, and yet St. John shits the bed. I'm not trying to call your boys out here, but shits the bed in the second round, and actually is the earliest upset of the entire tournament that's not named Nice.
Yeah, no, agreed. And the only thing I'll say is this: remember, the Celtics have to shoot the lights out to beat the Cavs. That's how they beat them 2 times. They have to be able to shoot the lights out. We have seen Boston go on streaks where they haven't shot the ball very well. You're talking about it, but again, to quote Ric Flair, To be the man, you have to beat the man. And that is, you know, sorry, I'm answering a question from upstairs. Um, that's the mantra that you have to live by. So let's see what happens. Everything starts this week. I'm going to injure my animals. Ay. Sorry.
So we're actually gonna step out for halftime here. We'll see you guys here in about 5 minutes. We'll come back. We'll get a quick blast in. We'll get the translator, and then we will set up for one of our biggest shows of the entire year. So we will see you guys in a few minutes.
See you in 5. You were late.
I was putting together stats for tomorrow. I'm going back over. I can't get over as amazing as Rose's 66 was. I still can't get over the fact that DeChambeau shot 75 today,
That's so. I feel so bad for him though, dude.
and the fact that
I
Rory
really
shot 73 and still won in the playoff.
I mean, you and I could dissect the Masters final round like that for hours and hours, but I'm getting tired. This week has been a bit stressful.
One second as something was coming through. Rory shot 6 birdies, 3 bogeys, and 2 doubles today.
Jesus Christ.
DeChambeau only had 3 birdies, 4 bogeys, and a double.
I'm sure he's having more than one double right now. But Jim, we got one thing we got to add to the blast on the fly. And then we had the rest of it pretty well thought out. So what do you say we hop into that thing and let's put a bow on her, huh?
Hey, in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't.
Now the thing we have to add in on the there's two things really. One, there's sad one is ex-LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacy was found dead Saturday night in his car in Houston. He was facing some criminal charges, and it looks like he took his own life, which is horrific and sad. 24 years old. The happier needed to add is your girl, Paige Beckers, has signed a 3-year deal with Unrivaled. The 10-week Unrivaled season. Wow. her 10-week salary in Unrivaled will make her more money than her entire rookie contract will.
I mean, because they got the backing to do it.
Well, the WNBA Players Association ought to be ashamed of themselves. It's the first time Angel Reese has said something that I actually agreed with. They ought to sit out.
Yeah, I could see that.
But outside of those two things, James, let's do it. Congratulations to the 2024-2025 men's basketball national champions, the Florida Gators. The first time since their back. Is it the first time since the back-to-back run, or was there one after that?
That was the only one since their 06-07. The Gators also set histories because they became the first school in history to win 3 championships in both football and men's basketball.
I hate to say this. I'm surprised Michigan didn't do it. I mean, the big basketball powers have never been football powers. So for them to do it, it's amazing. And tip of the cap. I'm not wearing the hat tonight because it's buried somewhere under stuff. But a tip of the cap to your Gators. I know you did the scared fan thing on Monday night, and when they fell down, what was it, down by 6?
When they fell down by 6 early, and I said this because I wrote a piece on Kelvin Sampson. You have to actually feel for Kelvin Sampson. This was his best look. It was only his 3rd Final Four appearance. For Houston as a school, only their 3rd Final Four appearance. The last 2 came during the 83 and 84 Phi Slamma Jamma that we spoke about last week. Only him and Rick Barnes, the only 2 active coaches with more than 700 wins and no national championship. Basically had jumped out to a 12-point lead early into the second half after leading by only 3 at the half. And then a staple of Todd Golden the entire tournament when the Gators were getting punched in the mouth. Really from the second round on, we're talking the second round game against Connecticut, the Sweet 16 against Maryland, the Elite 8 game, the Final Four, and the national championship, all getting punched around. They make the adjustments and they clamp down on defense. And the Gators led this game for 1 minute and 2 seconds.
The last minute and 2 seconds. Hats off. I mean, we talked about it when we spoke on the phone on Wednesday. Unreal. The run, especially really starting with the game against UConn, being down in every game and coming back, it speaks a lot to character. It speaks a lot to coaching.
More surprising, the fact of how low scoring this game was, or Houston not getting a shot off in the final 7 seconds.
Not getting a shot off. I mean,
And Sampson even said, we have to get a shot off. I don't want to say he's throwing his players under the bus, but that's just a testament to, Walter Clayton Jr. coming out and stepping out on that 3. And how smart was it of Alex Condon to jump on the ball on the floor and just basically kind of wrestle it, knowing that even if there's a tie up with possession arrow, that Houston was not going to be able to get a shot off with under a half second left, because then that's outside of catch and shoot rules.
Yeah, no, it was a phenomenal play at the end. As I told you, I watched the entire first half and the first couple minutes of the second half, and then I went to bedside stuff going on. Tuesday, I had a long day at work, and when I woke up and I saw the final play, I was like, wow. At one point, I was like, how do you not draw up a play to get a shot for somebody? And the second thing is, I looked at it a second time and went, wow, that is a phenomenal defensive scheme by Florida. So hats off, man. Did you buy your gear?
Yeah, my shirt's on the way. I've got way too many hats, so I didn't do that. I've got way too many pint glasses, but the only real piece of gear that I went with was the locker room shirt, so I figure I can kind of wear that all year round. Black goes with everything. It's every time your team wins, you got to get the locker room shirt.
because Fanatics doesn't do the big, or Nike doesn't do the big guy sizes in the locker room shirts, I'm the hat guy. And of course, we have the NHL's final week, James. We covered history last week. What do we have going into the playoffs? What do the playoffs look like?
There was actually a story that came out right now because most of the playoffs are basically set. Really, all that's decided now is one wild card in the East, and then both of the wild card spots in the West are up for grabs. For the first time, I want to say in history, all original six teams are not going to the postseason.
Are you serious?
The Boston Bruins are about to finish dead last in the East. The Rangers were eliminated earlier today. The Red Wings were eliminated earlier today. The Chicago Blackhawks are still dead and buried in the basement.
Unreal.
The only team right now that has a possibility of getting in are the Montreal Canadiens, who sit in the second wild card spot and are clinging to it. Because here's where we stand: is that every team has 1 or 2 games remaining, with the exception of the LA Kings, who have 3. And I want to say the Kings play tonight. With Columbus winning earlier today, they've now won 4 in a row. They are sitting in the 9th spot. They are 3 points behind the Canadiens for the final playoff spot in the East, and both have 2 games remaining. So if Montreal, so Columbus needs to win out and needs Montreal to lose their final 2 for the Jackets to get in. Any game that goes to overtime for Montreal or an outright loss will eliminate the Jackets. In the West, Minnesota has 95 points, St. Louis has 94, and Calgary has 92. The difference is the Wild and the Blues only have 1 game remaining. The Blues have lost 3 in a row. Calgary has a game in hand. So right now, the Blues need to win their next game on Tuesday night to shut the Flames out of the playoffs. Otherwise, it's fair game.
So remind me of the original 6 again. Boston, New York,
Montreal, Toronto. Well, I don't know where they got this stat from, because then the Leafs are in. Where did they?
Somebody screwed it.
Where did this stat come from? Because the headline's written like shit. Oh, all U.S. based original 6 teams make the playoffs miss the playoffs for the first time ever.
Oh, okay. See, and that's still significant considering the Cup hasn't crossed the border in 30-some years.
Right.
But either way, I mean, that's, and we've talked about it. The NHL is probably, we talked about the best playoff setup, or the best playoff to watch, and the NHL is definitely on that list. I know I'm a baseball guy, so I think October is the month that's the best on there. I know you're a hockey guy; you think it's the NHL playoffs, but that really just comes down to preference. Both of them are amazing.
The Winnipeg Jets officially have clinched the President's Trophy.
Wow.
Where is as it stands right now? That's not what I want. I want the playoff bracket. But as it stands right now, since they don't go 1 through 8, the Toronto Maple Leafs are leading the Atlantic Division. They're about to lock up the 1 seed in the Atlantic. Your second matchup are going to be the Lightning and the Panthers. And that could still flip-flop because Tampa's got 100 points. Florida's at 98. Ottawa has already clinched a playoff spot. At the very worst, there'll be a wild card. There is a possibility they could still sneak themselves into that top 3. The Metropolitan Division, the Washington Capitals have already won the division. Your secondary matchup will be Carolina hosting New Jersey. And then Columbus is still mathematically alive with 85 points. There's still a possibility that if the Devils shit the bed, that Columbus still could end up getting to 89 points, but I think New Jersey would own the tiebreaker there. In the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets again have won the Central Division. The second round matchup, the first matchup, second in the division, is already cinched in that the Dallas Stars will host Colorado. And then you've got Minnesota and St. Louis still in the playoff mix. And then in the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights have 107 points. The LA Kings have 101. But again, the Kings have that game in hand to make this very interesting. So if the Kings lose tonight, Vegas will win the Central. Win the Pacific. And then here's where things get interesting is that you still have the Kings mathematically alive to win the division, but they were only 2 points ahead of the Edmonton Oilers for home ice in that first round series. And again, Calgary bringing up the rear, 3 points out of the final playoff spot, but yet still a game in hand.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting this last week, and then the playoffs just go off the fucking chain.
As the regular season will officially come to a close this Thursday night.
Jim, if you had to handicap it right now, who do you think is going to end up taking these last couple spots that are still up for grabs?
I have to think that Montreal is going to win and shut the Jackets out, even though the Jackets are playing very well, because the Jackets' next game will be at the Flyers, who are going to be looking to play spoiler. And then the Jackets will actually finish home on Thursday to the New York Islanders, who, again, could be looking to play spoiler. If I actually look at Montreal's schedule over their final 2 games, Montreal will actually finish up home to Chicago, home to Carolina. Carolina still is, even though that their playoff spot is locked in, I don't think Carolina is going to really empty out the bench. If I shift over to the Western Conference, Minnesota in that right now having that first wild card, but only a point ahead of the Blues. Minnesota will actually finish up their schedule. Theirs is a little bit more favorable because the only game left on their schedule now, they will host Anaheim, who is one of the 3 worst teams in the league, on Tuesday. The Blues will actually finish out their season, their regular season, I want to say on Tuesday as well, as that's currently coming up against Utah. And Calgary will finish up hosting Vegas on Tuesday and then at Los Angeles. So I think Calgary's got the hardest road in from there. But again, the game's in hand. You never know, because Vegas, again, if LA loses later on tonight, their seating is already set. So does Vegas rest some guys? But we also did see the Pat Maroon's career officially come to an end. I don't think he's going to play in Chicago's finale. So congrats to the big rig. On a wonderful career. But I don't really see too much changing. We basically know who our division champions are going to be. We've got a pretty good idea for our secondary matchups, so to speak. I think it's the wild cards that could be very interesting, because it's very much like the NBA. Is that the NBA? You saw 10 teams end their season today. You got 2 more that are going to end on Tuesday, 2 more that are going to end on Friday. With that secondary play in, and then there's your lottery. Well, with the NHL, by Thursday night, maybe even by Tuesday, we could actually see this whole thing wrapped up, and then Thursday is just meaningless, for teams to actually start giving jerseys off their backs.
Yeah, no, it's the end of the season is always so tough to handicap, because you have these teams you think are going to play spoiler, and then are they actually going to play spoiler, or are they just going to, ride out the string? I think the Islanders will want to. Not to sound like this, but I think if any team is going to get the other team's least best shot that's got a chance to get into the playoffs that somebody could play a spoiler for, it is the Blue Jackets. I think everybody wants to see the Blue Jackets get there, especially after losing Johnny over the summer as they did.
As much as it would pain me to say it, because it would actually have to be the expense of my boys here, what would it actually say if Columbus and Calgary both went on their run and claimed the last playoff spot?
I think that would be massive. To
Even
be
though they
honest
would.
with you.
And here's the funny thing: what if the Jackets get in, and we know that they've got the proclivity of being the last team in and actually playing hell with the top team in their conference? Remember, they've only got 2 playoff wins in their franchise history, and one of those was against the President's Trophy winner in 2019 in a sweep.
Agreed. It's going to be interesting what the last week of the NHL season brings. We'll have a full playoff breakdown once we get past draft season. I mean, we really the 24th is really what we're gearing up for now.
I might actually, if I came on a few minutes early before the draft coverage really gets rocking on the 24th, I might actually even, pop on and do a quick thing on the Wise Guys, just me for about 20, 30 minutes, sometime next weekend, as well, just to look it over. But, by the time we come back to you guys on the 24th, we may be halfway through the first round. We might even be on to the second round in the NBA. So we can actually talk a couple of things before our coverage really gets rolling that night.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can, and especially if it's what we think it's going to be, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be. They'll have something to say because God knows they always have something to say. But James, it's we're hour 41. I was hoping to end this under 2. It's time for band practice, friend.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean!
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator, the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. As always, James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and the first thing that pops into our minds, whether it be hilarity or insight, is what we spout off to you. As normal now, we're coming up to another supercut, aren't we?
We're getting there.
Yes, but as normally we have what we have dubbed the YZ Chronicle, the moment James puts up the Chiron for the translator, and I inevitably lose my shit. So, James, if you would, sir.
It may not be as funny.
I think of liquor when I drive past a Tesla. Irish car bomb. Oh my God. So, James, it is incumbent upon me to give you the first name. And I am going to give you one that we have spoken of and that you have spoken of with great reverence. James, your first name in tonight's YZ Translator is newly crowned Masters champion Rory McIlroy.
First of all, I'm glad that our technical difficulties resolved to where that's actually playing.
Yes.
But what more can we actually say about him? I don't care what you think of Rory. I don't care how outspoken he is with the idea that he hates the idea of the PGA and Live merger. I don't care how much of a brand ambassador he is, or you think of him as. I don't care if you think that he was thought to be the next Tiger and really never kind of lived up to it, even though he's still a great player and is going to be in the Hall of Fame with 44 tour wins. I don't care what you think of his personal life and everything that he went through with his marriage in the last couple of years. If you did not either get misty or regardless of who you were pulling for today, whether it was Bryson, whether it was Jason Day, whether it was Patrick Reed, whether it was Justin Rose, if you did not crack a smile and even at one point choked back something when Rory was doubled over, sobbing his eyes out, and including the entire walk back to the clubhouse there at Augusta at just after 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You need to stop watching golf.
Well said. Absolutely well said. There are very few things in the world that, in the sports world anyway, that there are times when you really need to put it aside and just enjoy it. And today was one of those moments.
And my cousin, the one who actually I told you had never really watched golf before, she actually even started saying it's like nobody said anything. It's like, you know, that's kind of the customary thing is that they they sink the putt on 18 or in the playoff or whatever it is, and then you know you hear a little bit of commentary of some of the people that they're greeting, like he greets his wife, he greets his daughter, and then once he starts making the walk back to the clubhouse, you hear silence coming from the announcers. And that's the way that it is. There are some moments in sports where commentary is not necessary. And that walk from the green to bunker cabin is one of those moments. And it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or if they wanted to take an hour. When that player is walking to bunker cabin, you shut up and you just take
agreed.
it.
Agreed. So again, the Masters is something just different. The emotional ones. I mentioned the two Tigers. I met Rory today, Phil Mickelson winning his first jacket. There's something about those, and Jim Nance is the perfect commentator for it, by the way. There's something about those moments where you have to know when not to say anything. The Masters are coming off 18. Now, sometimes you can, because there are some times that there are so, who's going to win, and they go out and do it. That moment you can speak over it. When it is something that's just out of left field or monumental in that person's career, keep it shut. And Jim Nance again is the best at that.
Better high drama for this. Justin Rose having to warm himself up and basically sit there for 15 to 20 minutes watching to see what Rory would do, and the nerves that he had trying to keep himself warm, knowing that how far he came back, or Rory remembering how to count so he can actually add the scorecard correctly so he doesn't get DQ'd in bunker cabin immediately after. Because that's happened before. The guys who have won tournaments sign the card wrong and get DQ'd.
Yeah, and definitely counting the card because it's got that hanging over your head. You count it wrong, you sign it. Justin Rose is the Masters champion. He's wearing the green jacket, and you're interviewing him because of a DQ. It's definitely the card. Definitely the card. Who you got for him?
It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate because we all said of everyone that was there. And last thing I'll actually say about it, because of just how great it is and still how amped up I am several hours later now, that it's the ultimate Sunday thing that's not it's even bigger than the Super Bowl because it's bigger than Daytona, it's bigger than Indianapolis, it's bigger than any Game 7. It's because you're not out there with a whole bunch of other guys. It's you and you're playing with one other guy. There's 100,000 people on that course, and yet at the end you still have to do basic arithmetic to make it official.
Yeah.
Michael, your first name in the Wisey translator tonight. We saw the close of the NBA season earlier today. For an old man, he certainly actually had himself a little bit of an Iron Man career, playing in all 82 games. I'm talking about the ageless wonder that is Chris Paul.
Tony Gwynn, Ken Griffey Jr., Dan Marino, Chris Paul. The 4 best players, in my opinion, to never win a title. I feel for Chris Paul so bad that he has had situations blow up in his face, and including the trade to the Lakers. One of, if not the best point guard of our generation. I think the only point guard better than him in the last 30 years is Jay Kidd. And I just feel terrible. He is an ageless wonder because remember, he came in the same year as LeBron.
He turns, according to ESPN, he turns 40 in less than a month, and he's only one of 3 players to have a season with all 82 appearances at his day. John Stockton did it when he turned 39 and 40. Michael did it in his final season playing at 39. But Chris Paul is the first one to do it this deep in his 20th season.
Yeah, this is what he has done has been amazing. And I can't say enough about him. I honestly believe he is one of those players that will go down in history as let me add Barry Sanders to that list of one of the greatest players to never win a title. If he sticks around next year, I don't believe San Antonio is anywhere near a title yet. They'll be close if Wemby's healthy. But yeah, it's sad.
Because apparently Wemby's already lifting weights after his injury, which is good. I mean, first of all, he needs to lift a lot more of them.
Wemby's injury
it-
though was a blood clot. It wasn't he had a blood clot in his arm, which is
I understand that, but he also needs to bulk up a little bit more and add some physicality to his game. But if he is able to actually kind of if he is able to recover from this, whether Chris Paul comes back or not, I think San Antonio's going to be just fine with the fact that you have De'Aaron Fox now as a part of that lineup. You would have Wemby. You would also have his name is eluding me here at the moment. Devin Vassell was still in the equation. You got
Stephon
Stephon
Castle.
Castle.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be just fine. I think it might be time for Paul to walk away because he's actually done the journeyman thing to try and gravy train himself to a title. He knew that San Antonio was not going to be there, so he got the mentoring thing done. He doesn't have nearly the ability to carry a team at his age like LeBron does. I think it might be a perfect opportunity for him to maybe transition somewhere. Maybe does he take a college job, as a head coach, with all the openings that we're going to see here before too long. Does he actually maybe move onto Popovich's staff? I don't think he's going to take over at this
No.
point if Pop completely walks away because he's only been in the program for a year. But he's got a couple of gold medals. He doesn't have that NBA title. He never really kind of got close to sniffing one. But I think it might be time for Chris Paul to walk away.
I agree. The only thing that I can see Chris Paul doing that would be interesting is if you want to go ring chase and go to LA, play the point for LeBron and Luka. That's the only other thing at his age is the only thing I can see him doing.
Boston.
That wouldn't make any sense. No. And it's not because I hate Boston. It's because I honestly believe this. The window on Boston is closing. Remember, this team, these kids, quote unquote, were in the finals against the Eastern Conference Finals against LeBron 7 years ago. They're all in year 8 or better. You want to go, and the team that they're going to be chasing next year, our Cavaliers, are a lot younger. They're a lot faster. They're a lot more athletic. And I don't think Boston gets out of the Eastern Conference if he goes there. Just my opinion. And again, the Celtics are great. They're a phenomenal team. They have nothing young on that roster of Impact. It's all Tatum and Brown. And if they're going to be entering their 30s or damn near close to it. James, I'm going to give you your final name of the evening. And it is one that you and I have spoken about at length. And I'm going to use his actual name now. Your second and final name is the head coach of the 6th seed Detroit Pistons, J.B. Bickerstaff.
You have to think that he's going to be a finalist for Coach of the Year, even though we all hope it's Kenny Atkinson. Personally, I personally think it's going to be Mark Daigneault in OKC. But for the job that he did, taking this from the worst team in the Eastern Conference to the outright 6th seed and a date with the New York Knicks, who quite honestly can be got, even though the Pistons only finished 6 games over 500 and the Knicks are 20 over 500, the 3-6 matchup is always one we look forward to. And if nothing else, if he moves on, if he gets fired, if he goes into the same mentality in the next 2 to 3 years where he's not there anymore, like what he did wearing out his welcome in Cleveland, where he can't make adjustments when the postseason comes around, he got Cade Cunningham to a playoff series. At the very, very least, that's a best of 7 series. And that right there shows you to a testament that we need to give him as many flowers as we can right now, all kidding aside.
Agreed. And yes, we have fun with his name because that's what you and I do. We're a couple of fucking chuckleheads that do this shit. But I said this to you going into the season. Detroit was going to be a problem with him because he had a star and he didn't have that in Cleveland. And in, what was it, 2 years after he took over, they were in the play-in. 3 years they were in the playoffs. To do it in year 1, unreal. Unreal. Who you got for me, bud?
And also keep in mind with JB, he not everyone talks about Cade Cunningham. Remember, he had Jalen Duren, come over in a trade, and Jalen Duren was a former 13th overall pick as early as 2022 out of Memphis. So he's got him, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley on that bench, Dennis Schroeder, Tobias Harris. So he's got a really good blend there. But I mean, this is something where, the only downside of this is that I think Detroit might have been one more lottery pick away from hosting a first round playoff series. I'm not saying contending, but they're a lot further along than people think.
They're a lot further along than they were than Cleveland was in their rebuild when he took over. So no, I give him credit. I give him credit. Lots of credit, which is why I gave him to you tonight.
Michael, your second and final name as we close out the translator tonight. He just got himself a pretty decent contract extension, although missing the playoffs yet again. But he's another guy who might have one of these upstart franchises going in the right direction. And that would be Portland Trailblazers head coach and NBA Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups.
Most point guards will be really good head coaches. He has shown that. He has also shown that he's been the missing piece multiple times. Remember, he was a missing piece in Detroit that led them to a title under Larry Brown, with a no-name in Ben Wallace winning Defensive Player of the Year and beating that Lakers team. He was the piece that got Denver to the Western Conference Finals with Carmelo. He was the piece that went over with Carmelo to New York and made the Knicks respectable again. Chauncey Billups has been great wherever he's gone. I think it's great that he got his extension, but Portland needs a lot more help than just Chauncey getting his extension.
The Blazers had according to the ESPN report that I saw before we went on air, he just finished the 4th year of the guaranteed contract that he signed when he took over the job. That we actually thought, did he really deserve to get that job? Remember, there were several people that got passed over for that job. Um, but there's also the Blazers had, in terms of playing time, the third youngest roster in the league. I'm not talking by everybody who signed to their everyday roster, but in terms of the players that actually played and got decent minutes, they're the third youngest team in the draft, and they've got a lot of really good talent. I mean, bringing in veterans like DeAndre Ayton. They've actually got Scoot Henderson and Donovan Clingan. Coming up with that team. One more lottery pick. Let's actually see where they are. Maybe go out and get another free agent. Somebody who I want to say, it's not really a thing in the NBA, but somebody who could be a cap casualty, but it might just need that 1 point. But as wide open as the West is, because Dallas is probably going to fall back next year. How much is Minnesota going to possibly slide, back with a full, in year two minus Cat? Are the Warriors' time running out here? Especially if they go out, and don't even get into the top 8 here. Could Portland maybe try to take that jump that like a Sacramento did last year after how abysmal Sacramento was last year?
Yeah, I think Portland is the team that can do that with, you bring in one more good lottery player. Scoot has been really good, which I think we talked about when we were going into the draft, that he was going to be that good. I think they can be very good moving forward. I really do. I think he's the right guy to lead them. Let's hope they don't do what they did to Golden State did to Mark Jackson.
Yeah, that is very, very, very true. But look at the blessing in disguise. The Golden State does that to Mark Jackson, and then gets Steve Kerr and turns it into a friggin' dynasty.
Well, crying and getting KD after losing to a full healthy team will go a long way to doing that.
But also, again, winning that title even after KD moves on still speaks volumes.
That's I think the biggest championship Golden State won was that title in 2021, 22?
Correct. 2022,
Yeah.
I think.
That was the bigger championship. 15, you didn't play anybody with health on the roster. 16, you blew the 3-1 lead. 17 and 18, and even getting to the finals in 19, you were the fucking all-star team on paper. Winning that title in 22 with really your core guys, Clay, Steph, and Draymond, I think that championship made the other ones more legitimate. So,
because remember, Jelani McCoy was there. Jonathan Kuminga wasn't,
Yeah, exactly. So, James, we have like a mini bye week this week, as we will not come to you Sunday, but Thursday.
We have almost 10 days off.
People are going to get sick of us. Or not get sick of us. People are going to forget us. Sorry, I'm tired.
I'm planning on doing a special intro for that. We might have a couple of surprises in the can. Might have a new intro going forward. I'm going to actually be able to get a lot of these graphics tweaked out a little bit more in time for that. I'm certainly going to pop out a sports note of my own here before then, but we're actually going to, or if not two,
Same.
but we're going to come to you guys here. We're going to be going live at 7, even though a lot of the fireworks don't start until 7:30 or 8 really there. So we'll be even able to sneak in a little bit of a mini Wise Guys show before we do our breakdown. Are we going to do the entire first round? Probably not. We'll go as late as we can here with that, because it's going to be a school night. And then we will not be doing a show that following Sunday, the 27th. And then we will actually come back to you guys that first week of May, and we'll break everything down. So it's basically, we get 10 days off, we do that show, and then we get basically about another 10 days off afterwards.
Exactly. So in the interim, happy Easter to everybody.
Which is perfect going into what we're going to actually have as our little mini vacation over Memorial Day, and then our summer vacation in June. So we're
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Feels like that.
We're like Drew Carey on Whose Line. Is we're trying to make it so we don't have to show up at all.
Basically.
Our entire show back. We're gonna enjoy our time off so much that first show in May is probably gonna be done entirely with Chat GPT.
And AI versions of ourselves on the screen.
We're gonna have like VTuber icons.
Jesus Christ. But so we will see you guys on the 24th. We anticipate multiple guests. We have one confirmed for now, and a possible special video intro to this episode. Our third annual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first year I was down here. The translator turns 3 on the 24th, James. We may have something for you on that. You and I got to talk.
That's going to be something where that's the one thing that sucks, is because we're going to be able to sprinkle that translator throughout the entire show, so it's not going to be its one individual segment. So now I'm going to have to do timestamps, not only to be able to track all the picks, but also when I have to go back and cut the damn video periodically throughout the night.
Well, let me know how I can help.
We're going to pull the old Alan Cox thing. 809.
Can I close the show?
You may.
As I mentioned earlier, Bobby has been watching a lot of Wipeout. So for Jim Cornetti, I'm Mike Martinez saying good night and big balls.